Welcome back to the 2025 IHSBCA Red Carpet Show. We're here talking to Hall of Famers. Our next one is Mike Swartzentruber. We're here at the Sheridan at the Crossing in Indianapolis, center of the state. Mike knows about the North and the South for sure because he is a Washington, Indiana high school graduate. He graduated from Oakland City. He coached at North Posey and Martinsville prior to Lake Central, and the 2024 season ended with a 4A state title. And today, Mike has been on the big stage talking about that, and he's here to talk to us, and then he's going to speech tonight. In his career, he's got 479 wins, I believe, 27 years of coaching at North Posey. He was in the state finals 3 times, 2000, 2005, in 2006. They won it those last 2 years. His current position at Lake Central has his teams with 170 wins in 220 games. That's a 773 win percentage. That's incredible. While he's won 4 conference titles, 6 sectionals, 2 regionals, and 1 semi-state. Coach Schwartz, what do you enjoy most about coaching? You've been doing it a long time.
Some of the other guys, Coach Jennings I know really well. Gotten to know him really well over the last several years moving up to the region, and he said it pretty well when he was here. He, it's just relationships, the coaches. One of the highlights of my whole year is coming down to this clinic, spending 2 or 3 days and picking the brain of coaches a heck of a lot smarter than me. Relationships with assistant coaches, relationships with players, not even just the 4 years that they're under your guidance, but well beyond, and keeping track of what they're doing later in life and as they start families and careers and things like that. And obviously getting on the field and competing. I think probably almost every coach has played, and when those playing days end at some point, you're looking to get those competitive juices, keep those flowing, and coaching is a great kind of release for that, as far as just preparing teams and seeing what they can do out there, and then what you need to work on and what you can get better at. And it's just been a blessing for me since I was 5 years old and started playing to now, and who knows how much longer, but it's been a blessing in my life for sure.
How are you able to assess talent that can play for you and play in the system that you want to play?
Skill is obviously important. You got to have the Jimmies and Joes, so to speak, but I've always been big on intangibles. As far as, are you coachable? Do you listen? Do you work hard? Will you compete for me? Can I depend on you? Even stuff as a teacher at all the schools I've been at, can you get to class on time? Can you make your grades? Do you behave when you're in the classroom? That type of stuff. So, if you can check all those boxes and you can play a little bit, you can help us.
Do you have to have leaders to have success?
Yeah, I think so. No doubt about it. This past year was, I've been at Lake Central for 9 years, and I've told this to our team this past year that, on paper, this was probably our least talented team. I thought we've had teams prior that were good enough to win it 3 or 4 years, and it just didn't happen. We'd get deep, and it just didn't work. But, the thing about this team was that, no egos. We had great senior leadership, very cohesive group that got along well, very connected, and I think that paid dividends after a rough start for sure. We were able to overcome that.
Does the fact that you are a math teacher?
No, I'm a business teacher.
Oh, business.
But I teach accounting, which has numbers.
So you work with numbers.
Yes.
Does that help you in any way as a coach?
It does me. I'm a big numbers guy. I've always, ever since I was little, getting the sporting news or the newspaper and you check the box scores, always been intrigued with numbers. standings, you name it. So I've always been a numbers guy. We do a lot of we chart just about everything we do in practice. We make it into a competitive environment. We use it as data to evaluate kids.
You want to quantify what you're doing?
Yeah. So, we're at a school. We're at a big 4A school. We have 80, 90 kids try out. So, every little thing we want to give every kid an opportunity and a fair evaluation. So we take just about everything you can think of into consideration, and that's a big part of it is, from exit velocities to running speeds to, hard contact, you name it, we chart it, we record it, kids get the feedback off of it, what we use it to what we need to work on, improve on, things like that. So numbers have played a big part in what I like to do as a coach for sure.
Well, with 80 or 90 kids coming out, you can only, the numbers tell me you can only keep about half of those.
Yes, you're correct.
And I think you have 3 teams, but still, do you find that you have players that may get cut as a freshman or sophomore, but they will keep working at it and come back?
Yeah, so we, usually our biggest classes are incoming freshmen. We'll have 30 kids, and then each year, the next year, it's mostly the kids you kept, but you'll have 4 or 5 that come back. You explain, hey, we thought you needed to work on this, improve on that. But, I've always been asked what's the toughest part of the job, and I've taught at 3 different schools, 3 different sizes, 3 different dynamics, and as far as Lake Central goes, the hardest part of that job is setting a kid down after 3 days and telling him you're not going to keep him. And you got to look him in the eyes, and you get all kinds of reactions, some angry, some kids cry, and it's my least favorite, most uncomfortable part of the job. And it's not perfect, kids mature differently. I'll give you a quick example. Nick Robinson, our leadoff hitter last year, starting center fielder, probably the guy that made our offense go last year, was the last keep his freshman year. We almost cut him. And he turned out to be a 2-year starter on a team that won like 54 games, was second team All-State last year. So that tells you I'm not perfect when I almost cut a kid that 4 years later is an all-state center fielder. So it's you do the best you can. You try to make the best choices, and I think we do a good job of that and take everything into consideration. But it's a tough job, and it's an imperfect science a lot of times.
Yeah, your wife is Misty. I think you've been married 24 years.
Yep.
Is it 25 yet?
It'll be 25 in July.
25 in July. Your son is Griffith. Your daughter is Ryan.
Yep.
Want to brag on your family a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So my wife and I, she I mentioned this when I was fortunate enough to speak in front of all the coaches earlier. She's kind of the opposite of me. She was never an athlete in school. She never really followed sports. So she's kind of learned the game of baseball over the last 24 years. And so it's been a good dynamic at home, because I many times, unfortunately, have brought work home after a tough practice or a bad loss. And, she's always got the right mindset, the right things to say, to kind of get me back on the right path, right frame of mind really quickly. My kids have always been supportive. As a coach, especially now, it's almost a 365-day-a-year job, and so you've missed a lot of precious time with them. But they've been supportive and encouraging, and they've grown up to be 2 really fine adults that I'm very proud of.
Very good. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah,
and
thank you. I
congratulations
appreciate
to
it.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
In 2024, Mike became the first coach to guide 2 different programs to state titles. It's my honor to introduce the 119th inductee to the Indiana Baseball Hall of Fame, Mr. Mike Swartzentruber.
So I'll just warn you a couple things. As my coaches, and I've got a former player here, I'm a very detailed person. So I've practiced this speech numerous times. It's about 6 minutes and 10 seconds. But as the bad news is, I can tell you it's going to be longer than that, because I'm not going to make it. through all of this tonight. If I don't make it through Coach Jennings, I sure as heck not going to make it through all of mine. Thanks for getting me started already, Coach. But I'll do my best. Thanks to everyone for coming out tonight. I'm sure all the inductees feel the same way I do. We appreciate the support tonight. It's great to see everyone here. I want to thank the Brian Abbott and the IHSBCA for this week, for this weekend and this event. This is always one of my highlights on my calendar each year, is to come to the clinic, to talk to coaches. And I've always said, we do a lot of things in our program and the teams I've coached, but 99.9% of it is stuff I've stolen from guys a heck of a lot smarter than me. So I learned so much. It's always been a great experience. I hope I've got several more years I can keep coming here. I want to give a special thanks to Coach Strayer. I don't know if he's here tonight. He actually had brought this up a few years ago, and I said, I haven't done enough. So he remembered that conversation probably, and I felt like, I've always felt like, even at this moment, I don't know if I really belong. There's so many great names. I've always kind of followed the state, from Southern Indiana, Coach Gobert, Coach Merkel at Memorial. I come up here, I get the pleasure of coaching Coach Dykes at Penn, who thankfully we didn't have to beat to win our state title this year. I probably wouldn't have got that one either. So, so it's been a great experience. Everything, I can't thank all of you enough for this honor. It's very humbling. As Coach Jennings said, this really isn't about me tonight. It's more about the real Hall of Famers who I didn't make it quite as long ago. All the people who have been so instrumental in this path for me, this journey for me. So I'm going to start with, I first want to thank some people before I get into my family and stuff. Former Lake Central baseball coach and state champion coach, and now assistant AD Jeff Sandor here. Current principal Mrs. Erin Novak here. I can't thank you enough and for giving me this opportunity 9 years ago. It's been a dream come true to coach at Lake Central. Great players, great community, great parents, great support. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I appreciate it. Coach Halterman, who's not here, our strength coach, I want to give him a big thanks as well. The Tobias is here. Tobiases are here. Mr. Tobias, great family, huge supporters of our program. His son Griffin, who was our #1 pitcher last year, drafted by the Brewers. Probably one of the most important things I've done in my 9 years at Lake Central is to convince that young man to stay in our school district and not go somewhere else. One of a kind, competitor, one of my all-time favorites, Coach's dream. Can't say enough good things about the young man. Coach Novosel, Coach McNamara, and Coach Mahalik here tonight. All your time, your effort you put into the program. I said this earlier today when I had to speak. I can't thank you enough for having the same passion, the same vision that I have for our program and for everything you do. All right? I've had a lot of great assistants through the years. I've been fortunate. But these 3 gentlemen here are as good as it gets. Thank you. My sister Michelle and her entire family are here tonight. The fact that you all took the time to make this trip up here tonight is very special to me, and I can't thank you enough. I appreciate it. My son Griffin and daughter Ryan. Time is something we can never get back. And I know all coaches can attest to this. Reflect back on the times away from home, all the missed experiences because Dad was out scouting or at practice or at a game. But I want you to know that I've never taken for granted all the great experiences we have shared.
I couldn't be prouder of you two. You've grown into great young adults. I can't thank you enough for always being in my corner through all the good and bad. All right, so now my wife. The wife of a coach has to be one of the toughest and most unheralded roles a person can take on. You know, you've had to take on so many roles around the house, wear so many hats through the years, while I turned baseball into a 365-day-a-year job. You know, I didn't always want to bring work home with me, but I did many times with a bad practice or a tough loss. But you've always been the biggest voice of reason in my ears, the most calming influence. You're the best, and I love you. Coach Mack, what was the over-under on this? Me losing it here. So, you know, the sacrifices of my family, I can't thank them enough. The greatest people in my life. I love you all. I want to thank my parents. Unfortunately, my mom passed away a few years ago, but I know she's watching tonight with a prideful smile on her face as my #1 supporter. Excuse me. My dad here tonight, who's been and continues to be the most influential person in my life, the person who taught me the game when I was not the easiest pupil to teach. Some of you see me get fiery as a coach. I was not pleasant to be around sometimes when I didn't pitch well or hit well. So the man has the patience that I wish I had more of as a coach as well. You know, and it's not just baseball teaching me the game, it's just life lessons as a man and as a husband. The man who makes numerous 4+ hour trips each spring, braving horrible weather up in northwest Indiana to come watch our Lake Central teams play. Dad, I can't thank you enough. You're the best. I got through that, so I think I'm home free now. So I got a couple other things I'd like to say. I've been asked this many times since the announcement of my induction what this honor means to me. To be honest, I really can't put it into words. I will say it's beyond anything I've ever expected when I started into coaching. You know, you don't plan on doing this. To be part of such a select group of great men, coaches, mentors, you name it, is very humbling, and you know, it's just a fantastic honor, and I thank everyone for that. In closing, I want to say a few things. You know, I've been fortunate enough. I've made 3 stops. I've been at North Posey, Martinsville, and Lake Central. And, you know, I started at 23 years old. You know, and I've been fortunate to have so many great people around me to make it this long and to get to be at 3 different schools. But one group of people I haven't really thanked yet, and all coaches know this as well, is the players. You're only as good as your players. And I've been fortunate to have coached a lot of great young men. None better than the young man I mentioned earlier. You know, so it's not about the coach. It's having great players, kids that want to buy into your program, kids that want to listen, that want to work, want to be coachable. And you know, one of the things that I always remember is, as Coach Novosel always says, I've never seen a jockey carry a horse across the finish line. And you know, one of the things I told, we got our championship rings in December, and all our players came back, and we had a meal for them and stuff. And you know, one of the things I told them before we kind of broke apart was, getting in the Hall of Fame was always a goal of mine. I'll be honest, and you know, I never really thought it would happen. And those young men were probably the reason why I ended up getting in. Those guys from that 24 team, and I couldn't thank them enough. And you know, again, it's about the players, it's about the kids and the relationships. Again, I want to thank everyone tonight for making this one of the most memorable nights in my life, my coaching career, my profession. it's an honor, and thank you very much.
Congratulations, Mike. Good job.